So, what am I going to do for today's episode? I wanted to answer the questions that I have been getting in my DMs. Corporate would be a lot easier if we didn't have to navigate humans and we just had to do the work. But relationships, communication, and perception are everything, and they're skills we just have to learn. Let's talk about these things, and hopefully it helps all of you, and then these things resonate with you, and they can help you navigate some of the most common people type issues that happen at work. My name's Taz. I'm a woman. I'm brown. I grew up in Birmingham. I was raised by a single mum on free school meals. I've spent the last few years navigating corporate exec life. And what I've learned over the years is there is a set of corporate rules nobody is saying out loud. And that's why I created this podcast. This space is for us to unpack those rules and to help you figure out how you want to navigate the system and engage with it. I would love for you to follow on Office Real Talk on Instagram or TikTok and subscribe on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts, so we can get more of us listening and winning in the corporate world. Hi everybody, welcome to Office Real Talk with Taz. This is episode 10. If you told me when I started this I would be 10 episodes deep, I don't know if I'd believe you. When we started coming to this studio, me and my husband came on the first day and we booked another studio. We recorded a whole bunch of episodes on it. The quality was awful, and it wasn't because of the studio, it's because that kind of studio was not set up for a podcast like mine, which is a solo podcast. So after spending a bunch of money on it, decided to scrap it. The next time I lost an episode. One of the days I turned up to a booking a day late, so I lost 3 hours of studio time. Thank you, ADHD. So yeah, it's been a bit of a mission, and I do this outside of work. So every time you see me on a podcast, that's a Sunday morning recording. I do all of my prep work in the week. Then, there's all the social media stuff, being present, etc. So 10 episodes in, I just wanted to say thank you, firstly, because it is only because of all the people that listen and support the podcast that we're here, that I'm here. And I was talking to someone who's a podcast expert. They had a stat that basically says that most podcasts don't get past episode 10. So if we get past this episode, that is major. So yeah, I just wanted to, sorry about the ramble. I'm taking a moment to reflect and just say where we are and where we're up to. And I really, really appreciate you sticking around and supporting me on this journey. And I'm just hoping we can help more and more people own their careers and win by getting into the corporate rules nobody says out loud. Please keep sharing and telling more people about it, but I can't believe that I'm here. So, what am I going to do for today's episode? Ellen, hello Ellen, shout out to her. So for those of you who don't know, Ellen is my partner in crime on this alongside my husband. Ellen does all of the editing, she uploads all the podcasts and all of the stuff that you see on social media and clips, etc. It's all Ellen. She said you should do something different for episode 10 because it's a milestone and it's an achievement. So who am I not to take Ellen's advice? So here we are. For this episode, to say thank you, I wanted to answer the questions that I have been getting in my DMs. Let's talk about these things, and hopefully it helps all of you, and then these things resonate with you and they can help you navigate some of the most common people type issues that happen at work. And by people, I don't mean you have to be a line manager or people you lead. It's about your peers. It's about people that you come across on a daily basis. So here we go. Question number 1. My colleague keeps taking credit for my work like it's theirs. It's happened on more than one occasion, and I'm not sure how to address it, but it really doesn't feel fair. Oh my God, I love this one. And I picked this one because it's so common. Do you know how many people talk to me about this on the regular? And it can happen. Now, I'm the kind of boss, and I would hope all of my team would agree, that if you've done the work, I'm going to say you've done the work. But there's a lot of people not like that. So it could be your boss, it could be your peers. And in this example, it's a peer. So I think the first thing is, you have to ask yourself, how did they get the opportunity to take credit for the work? I don't understand how that can happen, because how does someone say they did the work? They've got audacity, but what happened between you and them that led them to believe that it was okay? What opportunity did they have to showcase the work that you didn't? Now, if it's your boss, it's slightly different, and I'll come to that in a second. But if it's a peer, which in this example it is, you've got to make sure that you are identifying what access they have to people to talk about the work that you're not. Because the only way they are getting credit for your work is if they are presenting your work like it's theirs in different scenarios. They're in a meeting that you're not in, presenting your work. Why is that? You should be presenting it. What's really, really important is when you do the work, that you have the visibility around the work that you've done, that you are advocating for yourself and sharing your work, that there is a perception that you are doing the work and not that you are a supporting cast member. Because some people might think if you're quiet, if you slip back into the corner, your peer could be quite outspoken. They could be kind of the front man, the front woman of the meeting. There will be a perception that you're in the background and they're leading. So whilst it's not the reality, it's about how they're showing up that you're not. Every time you're silent about the work and you let them take the credit, you'll be creating a narrative that you are a background singer, you're a backup dancer, that you're not the main person. One of the things that I would do that's really, really important is start with, when you're working on something with other people, you need to figure out what your unique role is in the work. I say this to my team all the time and they roll their eyes. And if they're listening, they'll probably roll their eyes as well. What are you uniquely accountable for? So is there a good division of responsibility between the two of you if you're working on something, or three of you or four of you? Whenever I work on team tasks, I'm always really, really careful about what are we all trying to get to collectively? So what's the collective goal or aim? And then what is our individual unique accountabilities? Once that is clear and you share that at the outset of a project or a program or a piece of work, then everybody knows and there's nothing mistaken, and make sure that's written down and shared with the key stakeholders, including your boss. Therefore, when you are turning up, you're presenting the collective goal, but then each of you should present your unique work, your unique accountability. You can contribute and challenge and ask questions about other people's work, but when you're presenting it, you're presenting your own. The second thing, whilst it does matter who knows, it matters most that your boss knows about your work and any other key sponsors that you might have. So at the end of every week, this is a really good hack. Send an email to your boss of, on this project, this is the kind of things that I did. These are the tasks that I did. This is how I did it. This is the value that I added, the contribution I make. Then it's written down, and week on week, you're building on that and you're sharing that with your boss and you're making sure they know. When it comes to your peer themselves, I think there's a conversation to be had if you want to address it on a retrospective way. And I would say, hey, I noticed that you presented that work that day. I'm conscious I did quite a lot of the work on that and it came off like I didn't. How do we go about that going forward to make sure that we're both getting the credit that we deserve? Don't isolate them by saying, you should have done that, I should have done that. Take the emotion out of the conversation. Go on facts, not feelings. The only way that that's going to change that they're not going to do it in future is you need to have a conversation about where are we presenting, who is presenting what, and who is showcasing what. Because that's what's not happened in this scenario. If they then basically lie through that conversation, you need to back up on what you've already told your boss. So I think these situations can be avoided by being clear up front around what the collective goal is, what everybody's uniquely bringing to the table, getting clear on who's presenting what where, and then going forward from there, and then giving feedback on a retrospective basis if you need to. Now, look, if it is your boss presenting your work, that can happen. That is common. I have presented my team's work, but I would never say it's mine. I would showcase all the people that are in it, and I normally take them with me. But there are senior meetings that they might not be invited to that I might go to. As many as I can, where I can take them, I will. If it is your boss, you need to be having a conversation with your boss and giving them the feedback. Now, this is harder than it sounds, and I know that people find this hard, but I think the way to position it would be, hey, Bob, I noticed last week that there was an opportunity to present the work I've been doing on blah, blah, blah. I'm really glad that you got to present the work, and I'm glad that you showcase the work that I've been doing. I would really like an opportunity to make sure that I can present the work that I'm doing. I'd like to be able to showcase it, talk about what I've learned, and make sure I'm in those meetings. What can we do next time for me to be there? If it happens time and time again, you need to deal with the feedback in a different way. Hey, Bob, I've noticed that I've been doing the work on these 5 projects, and on each occasion you have been in the meetings where my work is presented and been presenting that work. I would like the opportunity to present my own work. I'm mindful that I'm probably not getting the recognition I deserve. And whilst you know that I'm doing the work, I want to make sure sponsor, stakeholders, etc. can see the growth that I've had whilst doing the work and the contributions I'm making. How do I get into those meetings? They are the kind of conversations you need to be having. If you're going to be silent, if you're going to let it happen, if you're not going to figure out what your unique accountabilities are, if you're not going to be in the rooms or asked to be in the rooms where your work is presented, that's why this is happening to you. So make sure that's not the case. If you don't own your work, someone else will. Speak early, follow up in meetings, and make sure your unique contributions are known. But hopefully that helps. And if there's anything more on this situation that anybody wants to get into, again, talk to me privately in DMs or leave a comment on the podcast and we can chat about it. Okay, second one. This is a fave of mine. Office politics. I hate office politics. I'm not political and I don't like to deal with it. I don't like that you have to be political to get ahead in corporate. And I think that most people who do politics seem to be getting ahead in my company. You don't hate politics, you hate bad behavior. And I think most people, when they think about office politics, think about bad behavior. Now, what might be draining you is people undermining you, people showing up in a way that's well considered, well thought out, they're catching you out, they're being passive aggressive, all of that behavior. That happens in corporate. Trust me, it happens. It happens to me. I see people doing it all the time. That is the nature of corporate. Like, I can't lie about it. You're going to find those people. Nothing I do is going to change those people existing. The thing is, though, office politics is not a bad thing. I'd like to differentiate office politics between bad behaviors for a second. Now, being political at work simply means understanding people's agendas. And when I reframed my thinking to that, I really learned how to work with my peers and navigate the organization. When you understand what people's agendas are, because think about normal politics, everyone's got an agenda, a manifesto, something they're shooting for, something that matters to them. When you understand what each player around the table has on their agenda, what they're striving for, you can use that to your advantage to build relationships and move your work ahead. Let's use an example that probably resonates with people. There's a floor move happening in your office, right? There's loads of interested parties to manage. First interested party are all of the people who sit on the desks on the floor, and they're like, we need to make sure we've got desks, we've got space, we've got monitors, all of that, right? That's their agenda. They just want to make sure that they've got monitors, they've got desks, and they can sit next to who they want, and they can always find a desk. Then there's the people who come into the office sometimes, not all the time. They want to make sure there's enough collaboration space. They want to make sure there's meeting rooms. Then there'll be some senior people, and they want to make sure that there's meeting rooms too. And they're telling you there needs to be more meeting rooms. But really, when you get into it, you realize the reason they want meeting rooms is because they want personal offices. And they want rooms that they can always book and have offices that they can sit in. It's a really random example. But if you wanted to get all of those people on side, you need to make sure that the thing you're delivering talks to each of their agendas. Now, you can't always make everybody happy. But the way to do office politics isn't the bad behaviors you see. The way to be political at work is knowing what everybody's agenda is and ticking them off in turn. So what I would do in that scenario, if I was managing that project, is go and talk to each different stakeholder offline in a conversation and try and understand what their agenda is and what they're trying to do. That is just good business. Whether you work in corporate, whether you don't work in corporate, even if you're planning a family wedding, even if you're planning a family event, knowing what your mum wants, what your partner wants, what you want, what your siblings want, what your caterers want. It's all managing people's agendas. It's all political. And it doesn't mean everybody gets what they want, but there's a lot of conversations that need to happen in the background. What people see as office politics is just managing people's behaviors. It's the passive aggressive nature of how people turn up. It's the people talking over you. It's the people who go, well, we didn't have that conversation. I'm not sure we did talk about that. That one happens to me all the time. We didn't talk about that. And I'm like, yeah, we did. And we talked about it here and we had this conversation, but it's okay if you don't remember. I'm happy to revisit that offline. For the purpose of this meeting, can we move ahead? What you hate is people's behaviors and you don't want to emulate them. So what I won't say to you is that they won't happen. What I will say is that they will keep happening. And what you need to do is find a mechanism in how to deal with them. The way to do that is build relationships, because relationships build trust and trust influences decisions. Don't just nurture those relationships when you need something. Nurture them outside of when you need something. Go for coffees, check in with people, ask how they are, learn something about them. Nurture those relationships. So when you do want something, it will be easier to create leverage. Do a lot of pre-alignment, those corridor conversations, calling people before the meeting. I'm not saying you need to do that all the time, but on big topics, I really think it's valuable. And make sure that you know who you can trust and you read people's behavior and how they show up in meetings. I know exactly who will say what in what meeting and how they'll show up. And so I know exactly where I need to put my energy. And I also preempt what they're going to say. So if I know they're going to say it, I will start a conversation with, I want to try and get this out of the meeting. This is what success looks like. I know there'll be some of you that will be thinking about these things. And I do want to address that as we go through the meeting. And I know a few of you will have these concerns. I know we've talked about it offline. I'm hoping we've aligned. But if there's any questions, I'd also like to leave space to get into them. Call things out, don't avoid them. So many of us avoid the difficult conversations, avoid that difficult narrative. And I think navigating it is super important. Corporate will humble you quickly if you think the work alone is enough to get ahead. You need to leverage relationships to get further. Like it or not, that is the truth. Okay, the next one. My company is changing all the time. It feels like there's always a restructure going on. I can't keep up and I feel anxious a lot. Whilst I'm normally okay with change and can feel excited by it, I feel really anxious at the moment and I don't know what's coming next. Okay, this is a real one. I know this happens a lot. It's really hard. I've been impacted by it too. What I will say is restructures are common. They're going to keep happening, and that is just a reality. That is something that you can't shy away from. The thing with restructures is they create uncertainty because you don't know what's going to happen to you, but you don't know how the business is going to operate. It feels like you're losing control. It feels like everything you might know about an organization, how it operates and how it does business is up for grabs, which is so hard. And I've been there before, and it is so natural to feel like that. But I just wanted to start with, like, it's so normal. And that is the first thing to admit to yourself. The thing is, most people aren't scared of change. They're scared of uncertainty. And what I find is people always focus on, oh my God, what if this happens? What if this happens? What if this goes wrong? What if this goes right? What if it's really good? What if change is great? Look, I say this a lot, misery loves company. So if you surround yourself with people who also feel like, what if this goes wrong? What if this goes wrong? All you're going to do is be bouncing off each other, talking about it. I see it so much at work. There's normally someone who I know can adapt to change, and there's someone who takes a lot longer to adapt to change. But because the one that takes longer to adapt to change gets all uncertain, it rubs off on the person who probably would do it well. And what you've got is this kind of misery loves company kind of circle of people just going, oh, I wonder what's going to happen. I wonder what's going to happen. And it can bring the mood down. And that's okay. You need to create space for that, but you also need to learn to get past it, especially if you're the kind of person that you know will push through the change because that's who you are. So I think when this happens, you need to focus on a few things. Focus on your ability to adapt. You've got through 100% of your bad days in life. You've probably adapted to so many things in and out of work that you can't remember. Write them down and remember who the fuck you are. Number one. Number two, leverage your relationships. Not everybody that you've worked with is absolutely going to disappear. They might be in different jobs, they might be in different teams, but they'll be around. Leverage them, talk to them. They might be able to sponsor you, they might be around you, they might even end up working with you. You could be brilliantly surprised. And maybe dial down on some of the relationships where you've got those kind of friends that you vent to. You need them, but if you feel like they're going to, kind of bring you down, or they're going to suck energy out of you, just think about how much you want to index on those versus how much you want to over-index on yourself and your own personal views to change. Because remember, who you surround yourself with, the company you keep, really rubs off on you. Then make sure that you've got visibility. So as this new structure takes place or whatever is happening, if you know it's coming, make sure there's enough visibility beforehand. Look, sometimes you don't know it's coming. That's why visibility is the work. You need to be visible all the time. And that's why I've talked about this in previous episodes. Make sure your work is visible. Make sure your brag folder is noted. Make sure you've got all of the log of all the work you do. Make sure you do your Friday emails to your boss telling them what you've worked on. All of those things help you position yourself well. And then they're ready to position you with your new boss or your new team. And instead of focusing on your fears, focus on your skills. What are you good at? Get ready to talk about what you want. Get ready to talk about what you bring to the table. Get ready to talk about what you're good at. Get ready to answer the question if someone says, like, what have you been doing? Tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me about your career so far. What do you want next? Get ready to talk about all of those things. That's the stuff that to really focus in on. And that's the stuff not all of us have ready like that. That's why I'm teaching the Unstick Yourself Masterclass, because it's just something people don't know how to do. And I can't tell you how many times I've stopped people and they've talked to me and I'm like, so tell me what you're good at. What are your skills? And they just can't answer that question. They just can't. Listen back to the previous episodes where I talk about how to do that. But that's what you need to focus on. There's apprehension. Oh my God, I wonder what's going to happen. I wonder who I'm going to work for. I wonder how it's going to be. Then the gossip starts. Everyone's like, oh, I wonder what happened there. I wonder why they ended up there. I wonder what's going on here. Then people start focusing on, right, well, I am where I am. I need to get my head down and I need to get my work done. And it takes a while to get there. Live with that cycle. Be open to it. You know it's happening. But the quicker you can get to, how do I focus on me? What can I bring to the table? Build my relationships, strengthen what I've already got, the better. And remember, everything that happened before the restructure, everything that you brought to the table is still there. It's still who the fuck you are. You just need to remind yourself of that. So look, the change curve is normal, but you will get through it because you've got through everything before. There's one here that I wasn't going to get into, but I might just do it, and I'll try and do it quickly if I can. My colleague keeps dropping the ball and it's now affecting my work and I don't know how to navigate it without running to my boss. Look, this is such a common one. I see it all the time. I see it in my team all the time. I see it in other teams. It's because there is sometimes confusion about who's accountable for what. There is a need to avoid conflict so we don't have the hard conversations. Sometimes there can be resentment if your peer drops a ball and it's affecting your work, but you still want to handle it in a professional way without kind of losing your shit and, get ready to pull your hoops out. Sometimes we accept it without having the difficult conversations. Avoiding difficult conversations does not make you professional. Avoiding a difficult conversation just makes you avoidant. And so you need to have it. The first thing I would do is have the offline conversation first. I would go to your peer and say, look, I was expecting this thing, this didn't happen, I've noticed it, like where are we up to? Don't blindside your peers by calling it out in front of your boss without talking to them first. That is not how I do business. I don't recommend anybody else does business like it. It's not a good trait, and I don't respect people who do it. If you know the person, get to know what's going on for them. They might have an issue in their team. They might have an issue with a personal thing. They might just have too much work on. They might not even realize that it's happened. So go in with curiosity and listen. But if it's happened too many times verbally, you might want to put it in writing to them. And if it doesn't fix itself, and if it doesn't get sorted out and it happens more than once, you probably need to raise it with your boss in your one-to-one. Your boss, if they're good, should address it. It happens all the time around me, and I do address it. Sometimes I let people sort it out for themselves, because conflict resolution is something that everybody should learn with their peers, but it's really important. Look, in all of the scenarios that I've talked about, it's really important to be able to give feedback, have a conversation, and understand what's going on. So let me just give you my framework that my coach taught me. This is a really important framework for how you give feedback, and it's called COIN. There's 4 elements to COIN. C, the context. I needed this work because we were meant to deliver this, and it's impacted my project. That's the context. The observation is, what I observed is I was due the data and the work from your team. I didn't get it on time, and therefore, it meant impact. We couldn't do the work. It's affected my team. It's affected morale. I haven't been able to get the project out on time. I'm now facing more cost, blah, 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 impact. And next steps. Where do we go from here next? So context, observation, impact, next steps, COIN. Use that framework to give feedback every time. It's such a good framework. It takes the emotion out. It helps you deliver feedback in an impartial way. And it also forces you to listen. So you can say, look, this is my observation. What was going on for you then? Do you want to talk to me about it? It'd be good to hear from you what you think. And before you agree next steps, you should always do that. So if you do context, observation, impact, and then say, look, that's my reflection of the situation. What's going on for you? Listen. And then say, shall we agree the next steps together? And if you can both lock in on the next steps, then you've got something to hold each other accountable to. The goal isn't avoiding conflict. It isn't avoiding giving feedback. It isn't avoiding having difficult conversations. It's about handling all of those things well. And that's where we all need to get to. Okay, the last one. I feel like I'm constantly watching how I speak and behave at work. It's exhausting, and I don't know if I'm me anymore or I'm acting like someone else. How do I tell? Look, it is so common for so many of us to feel like this. I think I've talked about it in previous podcast episodes as well. My niece will literally tell me I've got a white voice at work. When I listen to people talk, when they're in a professional setting, they talk differently to how they talk at home. That is so common, and in ethnic minorities in particular, it's called code switching. And we do it all the time, and we do it quite naturally. There's some brilliant reels that Mo Gilligan does, if you follow him, around how he code switches when he gets into work. Absolutely hilarious. But that's so common, right? A lot of the time when we're showing up at work, we're masking. We're trying to be who society and corporate tells us we should be. We are trying to be professional. We're trying to emulate other people's behaviors. We are trying to belong. We're trying to fit in. We're trying to have things in common on the small talk. We're trying to relate to people who go skiing and play golf and, go on big family holidays. We sometimes try and dial down our accents. I had someone, I've talked about this before, in my DMs tell me that he was told his accent's unprofessional. And we're also trying to manage a perception of who people think we might be because we're female, or we're an ethnic minority, or we're from a low-income background or whatever. We think people are going to think we're a certain type of person, and we don't want to play into that narrative. We want to be different. I remember a guy at work telling me that if he hadn't met me and he heard me, he could tell that I was Asian, and I didn't know what that meant. And he was like, you can just tell from the way you speak. And I was like, okay, what does that actually mean? I've also heard people say to me, you're really articulate considering. And I'm like, considering what? Well, considering your background. I'm like, English isn't my second language, bruv. See, I did it there. English is not my second language. English is my first language. What are we saying here? So narratives like that, people talking to us like that, further endorse the need for us to show up in a certain way. There is nothing wrong with you showing up in a way that's professional, in a way that feels real to you. But I get that it can be exhausting. I don't have the answers for that because it is very true, and it's what the system can be requiring. Sometimes when I get home from work, especially when my niece and nephew stay, right, they'll be like, how was your day? And I'm like, exhausting. Like, all I've done is be around men all day. All I've done is like be around people that don't look like me all day. Like sometimes that's exhausting. And I actually notice how much more relaxed I am when I am with people who I relate to or I resonate with or I can talk about. When I lived in my flat back in the day with my friends, you know, two Asian girls, both worked in corporate, we would talk about the same things. We would have the same issues. We would identify the same things because there's such a sense of belonging. So what I'm not saying here is that you'll never need to code switch. I'm saying you're doing it naturally because it's who we're taught to be. It's who we are now at work. You can still do that and be authentic, because I am still authentic. I still show up as me, and you've got to find what that is for yourself. I can't tell you what that is. But what I will say to you is find people who you can be truly yourself with at work and outside of work, because that will make it more real for you. And over time, you can build a way where you code switch a lot less. Like, I know when I'm at work, I'm on. When I'm not at work, I'm off. But being on doesn't necessarily mean that you're being someone else. It's just who you are at work. So it's a finite balance that you have to work out for yourself, but it is real. It does happen to us. So yeah, that's a reality of it. And that's why I wanted to be real and thus real talk, because I don't want to hide that this isn't a thing. Hopefully that's helped. There's some common situations in there. I hope it's resonated with you. Let me know which ones you resonate with most. If there's more situations that you come across, I had a few more I couldn't cover today. Let me know and I'll do another episode covering them. And yeah, I hope you've enjoyed episode 10 and it was an opportunity for me to give back a little bit. Thank you for listening. Here's to 10, 20 and 100 more.